Alright everyone, welcome back to another tier list video. Surprise, surprise! My last tier list video actually did really good, so I thought, hey, let's hit you guys with another one. And today we have the Tremor Remastered Bosses tier list. As you know, it's a ranking of bosses in the Terraria mod, Tremor Remastered. As we just know, I just defeated the final boss in Tremor Remastered, so I have all the experience of a Tremor veteran, aka. So I thought, hey, you know what? Let's go show the internet what we think about this mod. As we scroll down here, we have 6 tiers. We have actually good, which is bosses I think are actually decent and like could be sort of comparable to some mod bosses right now. Fine, which are like, yeah, it's passable, but it's not like doesn't have a good spark or make it even better. Is like, it could be better, but at least it's not too bad. Oh God is like, oh God, this wasn't fun, but whatever. It was what it is. What it is. I hate this. Is just I don't like this boss at all. It's just really bad. And please end all of existence. I'll let you guess what that means. Anyways, as we see down here, we have all of our bosses. Some of them are a little bit cut off because, you know, tier list maker doesn't like to have a good resolution. So we're starting out the list with the Alchemaster. Personally, I have a lot of like history with this since it was like one of the only bosses from Tremor I remembered 4 years ago. And back then, it pretty much was the same. It was pretty easy. If like 12-year-old me could defeat it, I'm sure 16-year-old me had no problem with it. So yeah, his crafting recipe and it was okay, but the boss fight, as I said, it was pretty decent. However, just because of what it is, and not only that, but it's also a reference to like Shovel Knight, I believe, with all the Plague Knight thing, along with the Night of the Undead event. I just think in my heart, it just represents actually good, like bottom tier actually good. Just because it's a decent boss fight, honestly, and I think it has a little bit of charm to it. Next up, we have the Brutalist. Oh boy, what can I say about the Brutalist? Honestly, he wasn't that bad, but like I would say he's in the bottom of oh God, because like he killed me once, like, and my reaction to when he shot out the fireballs and just does 900 damage, I was like, oh God, I can't believe that. So yes, I would say bottom of oh God tier list. He wasn't too hard, but he was shocking, and I did die to him once. Next up, we have it's this boss, Coglord. Now with the mod, this boss is super infamous and crucial to the mod since like whenever you saw a Tremor video, it was like either Coglord, Motherboard, or one of the other infamous bosses from this mod. Usually Coglord or Motherboard. However, Coglord's boss fight is very annoying because for one, it shoots out drones that make it the boss invincible, which I'm not really a big fan of that mechanic in the first place, I'll be honest. And not only that, but these drones, the way their AI works, they home in on the boss, but they can move in any direction around it. So you have to play sort of like opposite side game with them, where you have to be in the opposite side of the drones and the Coglord. Since the lasers they shoot out not only do they do 200 damage, but they do stop when they get hit by a Coglord. Also, little note, the Rocket Storm, very annoying. So, first, please end all of existence, boss. Next, we have the Cyber King, and I'll be putting Motherboard in the same area, since they were essentially the same. Now, Cyber King 1, its sprite was really cool. I'm not gonna, like, really judge whether sprites were original or not, since that's a whole mess in itself. But, the sprite was cool. It had some unique attacks, like, sprite-wise. And it had a decent amount of damage, and provided a bit of a challenge. Honestly, I really like this boss. I think it's one of the better bosses in Tremor. And I do actually think that it puts it at least an actually good. Because this is a boss I would like to see remade today. And I think it would be really nice. Next, we have Ancient Dragon. A lot of people really hate Ancient Dragon. But they all hate it for like, oh, it petrifies, it's bad. I basically cheesed out the boss, so it was really easy. Just because the Alchemaster was really easy, I'm not going to give this one an easy time off, though, since the community's reaction to it is very negative, one. And two, if you just make it that easy with, like, certain weapons, what's the point of doing it? It had some cool drops and all, but honestly, its spawning was also... I'll say this, its spawning was very unconventional, which is pretty decent, honestly. So, I'll be honest, I'll put this in eh. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either, so that's why it's there. Next up, we have the Evil Corn boss. Now, Evil Corn's animation was very broken when I did him in Tremor. Like, if you will go back to my episode where I did it, It's like extremely messed up. Like the whole thumbnail was based around how just buggy its animation was. Also, this boss heals itself, and I don't like that. But it wasn't too bad to defeat. It just was a little bit annoying, honestly. So, another boss I would say that goes in behind Ancient Dragon. So next up we have the Frost King. Personally, like if I was to ever like expand upon my Tremor series of lore in the future, Frost King would be huge in it. But saying that really doesn't bump him up in this list. That's just a little side note to get out of the way. Honestly, he was pretty easy, and he was a lot better than I remembered. And by easy, I mean, like, he did throw out challenges, but I do think, like, he could be tough if you're not good at dodging. Like, he was so easy to dodge for, like, where he is. Especially, like, with how slow he is, his attack speed. I mean, that Ice Queen attack was kind of annoying, but thankfully I only did, like, 18 to, like, 27 damage. So, honestly, I did like this fight, and while I think some of the drops were lackluster, I think that the ones you did get were okay, like Frostone. So I'm gonna put it in fine. It's like better than Ancient Dragon, where it's like an actual boss fight that doesn't take 2 seconds or just isn't as bugged. But not one of the good ones, since it really doesn't add anything like too big to make it different. And it just feels like a boss that's very out of date with modern standards. Next we have Fungus Beetle. Oh boy, Fungus Beetle, my best friend. I've said this before, the mechanic where it summons a thing, like for Coglord, and then makes it invincible, very annoying. This one also just summons it a lot, whereas Coglord does it at a certain point in health. It has like a timer for when it summons these great fungus beetles, which is not good, I'll be honest. Also, this boss did tear into me quite a bit, so that also puts us down a little bit. It's a little bit unnecessarily difficult in my opinion. My opinion is that I think we should put this in I hate this, because while the Brutalist actually like was manageable and didn't really surprise me too much by the time it killed me, this really was an annoying fight all in all. But it didn't get to the annoyance to where it was actually not fun to play. It was just like super annoying. Next up we have the Heater of Worlds. Pet peeve, by the way, really lagged out my background in my video. I can't record well, but come on, you could have at least acted better. I mean, Anatis' boss fight was even easier to see than yours. God. But besides that, it was just a worm boss that posed zero threat. Whenever it, like, tried to charge you, you can either easily dodge it, or basically just missed you. That's so dumb, honestly. Like, not dumb in a bad way, but dumb in a just dumb way. So, yeah, it's going in a tier list. It really doesn't provide anything, I'll be honest. Oh yes, and of course, before we go on the motherboard, let's put Mothership with Cyber King just a little bit lower. Alright, motherboard. For what I discovered at first, motherboard was a really annoying boss. Like, super, super annoying. Honestly, from what I've gathered through my playthrough, I do think I could do it for its tier. But for what you should be able to do with it, you just can't. It's very difficult. It has lasers that are undodgeable. Literally, the wiki says it itself. What am I supposed to do about that? Nothing. Also, me fixing the code apparently bugged it out, which it doesn't make any sense. Like, just this boss fight's not that good. However, I'm gonna put it above Coglord, because at least what I discovered, as I said, it can actually be done at its tier with the right equipment. Coglord really can't, unless you're a master of dodging like Leviathan or something. Alright, next up is a boss that's kind of a mini boss, aka Nova Pillar during the Lunar event. I will say one thing, as I said in the last video I mentioned this, balls to add another pillar on like every other mod. You either have fragments that other pillars drop, like Thorium and Shadows of Abaddon, or you have others that can craft. And it's just like, wow, that's cool. I wish it had an actual pillar, wink, wink, wink. Who knows, maybe Thorium will do that? But yeah, I think it's really cool that Tremor does add something like this. The enemies, like, they're fine, but they're not anything special. I like the raining flasks. However, the sprite for the uncharged shield one is kind of bugged, so kind of a letdown, honestly. But you know what? It wasn't too bad, and it did add a little bit of uniqueness. I would put this in fine, above the Frost King. Next one, we have Rook. Oh boy. Rook, honestly, I didn't like him, I'll be honest. He wasn't like, he isn't please end all of existence. But he's not fun either. Cause like, for where he is, you literally fight him as your third boss. He summons sand nados you're supposed to be able to dodge with no equipment to get over those tall things. And then you also have the vultures that summons like 24/7 that just crowd the arena. Sure, I think you can bug it out with a platform to stop the vultures from getting to you. That's still not a good boss design, since the sand nados also can still get you from the height they are summoned. Not just that, but I had to fight this boss out of arena just because of how hectic and how not insane, but more of how dumb this boss fight was. Honestly, I would put this in I hate this. It's better than Fungus Beetle, I can guarantee you that. It's just not fun, honestly. Next up, we have the Pixie Queen. Alright, so what I remembered is the Pixie Queen's old AI, it would stay in place and then start moving. Nope, apparently it just starts sporadically moving everywhere with its literal, what are they called, like Drakens or whatever, that do 300 damage each. You have to move constantly throughout this boss fight just to dodge it. You also have to telegraph where she's coming from and your attacks just to get a decent boss fight out. Like, for gamers, that's pretty easy, but if like you're new to modding or just Terraria modding in general, it's not fun to fight this boss. Honestly, I would put this at oh god, like bottom tier. Because while it did kill me once, and you know, it's pretty annoying, it's not like it didn't feel a little bit out of place. And at least it was manageable, like you could think of something to do it and it would probably work against it. This one, next one, it's the Hope Soul, which represents the Trinity, since I didn't want to get all three of them in here. The Trinity's very interesting boss. Personally, I thought it was okay. I didn't add anything special. However, it is the penultimate boss of Tremor, and from when I last played it, I believe it was the last boss. I will say, I like the Trinity thing with like representing each an aspect of like the Doom, Hope, and the Truth. I think it's a very interesting concept. Also, I do think the things it drops are pretty worth it, especially the best Nightmare from the Hope Soul. Super good weapon, super good. And I just think like what it drops like really represented as a almost final boss pretty well, honestly, especially with spawning of Angelite and Collapsium. So just for that stuff, I'd say put it in fine, since the boss fight is actually decent, like surprisingly decent, even though it's a projectile spammer. And I'd say it's worth going through its crafting like tree just to get it. Next up, we have the Space Whale. Now, like I saw this boss years before. I think it was Game Raiders videos where I first saw it. His like old, most popular Terraria video, if you remember that. I was like, whoa, this boss is sick looking. Like, because back then I couldn't tell just from a video how a boss would play out. And from doing it now, it's kind of lost a bit of footing, honestly. Like, it still looks cool and its attacks are okay, but there's a few things I find a little bit of problem with. First of all, the minions it spawns are just resprouted giant meteor heads, which, I mean, come on, you could have added baby space whales or something actually original. And two, it also just uses projectiles, the projectiles from the lunatic cultist, and for just reusing like sprites and stuff like that, and also being a little bit annoying with the minions, since it can be a bit of a pain to take them down. I would say that this boss fight goes in but top of it, just for its design, it just feels a little bit more annoying than some of these bosses up here. Next up, we have the Storm Jellyfish, and honestly, people said the Storm Jellyfish wouldn't be good. I thought it was actually okay, especially with like the torn wings you get. That helps a super ton with being able to dodge the boss's health. The only part you really have to watch out is the actual contact damage, since it gives you the Electrified debuff, which like drains your health super insanely. But besides that, it's an actually pretty decent fight with okay loot. Like the Storm, I think it was the Storm Blade I got. It lasted me for a while, like all the way up to honestly Heater of Worlds, I would say. So just for that, both the boss fight, the AI, and its drops, I would say it goes in bottom of fine. Since like it doesn't have that thing to push it up there, but it's fine. Next up, we have the Dark Emperor. I have a lot of issues with the Dark Emperor. For like when I first fought it, it just took so long to just even fight the boss. That might have just been due to me having a lack of good weapons, but even still, that still left an impact on me, and it still applies sort of with even better ones. Also too, after you just like defeat all of its state, like go down to its final health, it just goes into a second form and starts shooting out slimes. Also, just the amount of slimes it produces is just insane. at one point, like, not even damage values would show up because of the amount of projectiles slash entities on the screen. So that's a major pull down for that one. Honestly, this one wasn't that great. However, I'm going to put it in top of Oh God, because while it didn't kill me, and while it was, not too bad, it was super annoying, honestly. And I would say, if you have to, please check which weapons you use, like, especially, like, right before you do it. Next up, we got the Tiki Totem. Honestly, this boss, it wasn't too bad, honestly. Like, I like this boss. However, I will say, I believe the souls that are released to this are bugged. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to be able to fight them. Like, the wiki says Vulture AI, aka the AI that targets onto you. But when they're summoned, they just go up in the sky and despawn. So, yeah. This boss used to be a little different back when I first fought him. Like, you didn't have the Tiki Souls around, you had to kill him and then get down the Tiki Totem. So, that's a little bit of a change that really stuck out to me. It also just spawned a bunch of, like, Tiki people, lizards, even lizards, which is kind of funny. So, just for a bit of the humor, kind of nostalgia stick, and also actually for, like, changing the world, like, actually activating the ruin areas for you, I would say bottom of fine. Because while it didn't, like, do anything great, I still think it stuck out to me more than some of these bosses down here. Alright, next we have the Paradox Titan, and you thought Coglord was bad? You are dumb. Paradox Titan, not only is it the event, not only is it a little bit annoying, sure, I fought it out of order, but I still think it would be super annoying if you fought it post-Trinity, but, like, my effective strategy in order to defeat him was to be killed, but doing damage would be easier being killed, since he spawns a ring of Titan crystals that tank damage done to him. So you have to get super close to kill him, which is very annoying. He also has a sort of teleporting mechanic that makes him go like teleport super fast all over the place. And honestly, I don't know if that's epileptic or not, but that just seems kind of both annoying and not fun to deal with. So, like, I believe, like, honestly, like, this is one of the worst bosses I've faced, honestly, ever. Like, it takes the cake even from Coglord. Jeez. Alright. Next, we have Anatis, honestly. And personally, I actually think Anatis is a good final boss. It's not a special final boss, but for a final boss, it's good for what it is. Because not only does it have two phases, not only does it, like, as a hell boss, like, the final challenge is the underworld, it just has, like, the right feel to the final boss. I don't know how else to explain that. Like, you're fighting this final thing in hell. Ooh, kabooga. It's gonna kill you. So yeah, honestly, I like that a lot. Also, I like the sprite. I think it's pretty cool. Like, classic demon sprite, but I think it's a good demon sprite. So I would say I'm gonna put this right above, what's his face? Cyber King. Not only does he pose a decent challenge to you, but his drops are pretty decent, honestly. I'd probably have to go back to get some more of them, since I only got the Gehenna staff and the Pandemonium. Finally, we had the Wall of Shadows. Oh boy, baby, the Wall of Shadows. The tagline for this boss should be, can damage you without touching. Because, like, honestly, that's such a terrible mechanic for any boss ever in a mod. Like, I'm sorry, but if you have that, you really need to rethink this boss in general. I'm pretty sure this was a suggestion, like, not, like, that feature, but this boss. And while I do think it's an interesting concept, I think for what it is, it could be improved a little bit. Like, its lasers also just start randomly doing a lot of damage, like, not even, like, when you get lower. Because, like, you could be, like, 1%, it can do, like, 1 damage to you. Or you could be at, like, you know, 15% and it does 200. Doesn't make any sense, honestly. It also had a lot more problems back when it was literally the hard mode equivalent, or not the hard mode equivalent, just the equivalent to the Wall of Flesh. Like, it was dramatically more difficult since, like, when I was playing Tremor back in the day, this was the hardest boss I ever fought. All these other bosses, like the ones I did, up to hard mode, just paled in comparison to this one. However, I do think I got better at Terraria, so I'm better at this one. I just think that, like, even with its annoyingness, you can actually beat it. It just is a really bad boss design, like, borderline bad. Like, borderline terrible, in fact. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of I hate this. So, everyone, this was my Tremor Remastered bosses tier list. I know there's going to be a bit of discussion in the comments, especially with some of these bosses. But, this is what I think is the best of the best for these mods. / the worst. So, I would love to hear what you guys actually think of these. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, like, and share with a friend. My name is Just the Joe, and I'll see you in the next video on this channel. Bye-bye!